All right. Hello and welcome to the 90 Minutes to Creating Your Irresistible Offer workshop. And hopefully it is 90 minutes, right? Um, it could be a little less. I don't think it will be more. I will definitely be mindful of your time. Hi, Catherine. Um, and basically, right, we want to stop trading time for money. So let me share my screen and we can get started. Ta-da. Okay. So, I'm gonna pull you guys over here so I can see your faces. Sorry, give me one more second. Okay. So I can see the chat. I can see, just so you guys know too, like little housekeeping. Danica is going to be the co-host. So if you need anything, just let her know, and we will we will get started. So yeah, like this whole idea of freedom, right? Stop trading time for money. And for me, like the ocean is like a great image for that. It's just so calming and relaxing. So I'm talking today about group coaching, right? And so many people are one-on-one coaches. And um, the other day, a friend of mine said this, and I was like, "Hey, can I use that?" She's like, "Yeah, sure." So she just said, "I can't keep seeing as many clients as I do. It's not good for me mentally, emotionally, physically, or spiritually." Right? She's feeling totally burned out. Um, she wants to hide like this little guy, right? Like hide under the blankets, hide from all her people. Um, like when you're doing that, right? Like burnout is super high. And basically, you guys all know you can't pour from an empty cup, right? Like we have to take time to fill ourselves um, before we can give to anybody else. And when you're a coach, right? Like you're giving all the time. So you have two choices here, right? Like you can either create a group coaching program or you can raise your prices. Like those are the right? That's the only way you can grow your business as a one-on-one coach. Um, you probably should do both, just so you know, right? Because we don't want one-on-one coaching to go away. Like that's not the answer, right? Like that's not the way we want to go about this. But we don't want to feel like this little guy either, like hiding under the blankets, barely peeking out, um, and not wanting to get out of bed. Or is that just me, right? Like, I don't think it's just me, but you never know. It could be just me. No, I'm gonna pull this up over here. Sorry. Uh, there we go. And I can see some stuff. Sorry. Ah, these Zoom things sometimes get behind each other, and then I can't see what I need to see. Hang on. Yeah, it's grabbing things and moving it. There we go. Okay, that's better. Okay, so sorry about that. Right? I don't think it's just me. If you like anybody else feel like that, right? Like to the gas, anyone resonating? Right? Like I don't want to get up. I don't want to move out from under the covers. Um, and so what we're going to talk about today is if you decide you want to create a group coaching program, um, then then hopefully you cannot feel like that anymore. So today we are going to actually dig in and do some work. Okay, you should have your um, workbook, and during this time we are going to create a crystal clear objective, and we're going to talk about why that's necessary. Right? We're going to define your celebration milestones for your program, and we're going to create your irresistible offer. What that means, right, is like step one to the whole thing is done in the next 90 minutes. And hopefully we will have some time, and I think we will, to like get some feedback and brainstorm some ideas. But if you're already coaching one-on-one, but you want to have a bigger impact, you want to be able to scale, maybe you tried to launch and nobody enrolled, nobody bought, right? Or you have a group coaching program, but you know it could be better. We're going to talk about all three of those things today. So, well, yeah, all three of those things today. So, I know. That's why I said, I know. I get it, right? It's super, super frustrating. Um, but I'm gonna like, just so you have a clear heads up, the process today might be a little frustrating as well, right? If we dig into anything, it's very possible that it's going to frustrate us. And especially as I'm asking you to do something you've never done before, especially this first part, right? Like in my experience right now, that the creating a crystal clear objective is the piece that people resist against. Or like it's the same idea, right, as like defining their ideal client. Same thing, they resist against it. But before we get down to there, let's do who I am. So most of you know me. Some of you know me really well, and others not as much. I am a former high school math teacher. I say reluctant leader. I don't know why. I do know why I say that. It's because I never like go out to lead the things. I just end up leading them, and it's because I serve, right? Like I want to serve people. And so when you have a servant's heart, you end up leading things, right? So like I'm the vice chair of the local board of directors at my church. I lead that tech team, right? Like, so I say reluctant leader because it's not like I'm like, hey, let me lead more things. It just happens. Or I just say yes, I don't know. Turn to marketing expert. So last fall, I completed a certification program in uh, marketing, in digital marketing to be very specific. Um, and it's super, like, I love it. I didn't know that I would love it, but I love it. And it's funny because uh, Diane knows this, right? Her and I, this has been a few years back, we're sitting in this room in Dallas with like 25 other people. And like this guy, and he's talking, right? He's talking about like the why that makes you cry. And I'm like, yeah, whatever, right? Like Diane and I both, like, we've done this, we've taught this, we've like, whatever, dude. We know why we're doing the things we're doing, right? Until he asks the question, um, what my why is. And then I like literally cried, telling him. And then, he stopped at the end and he was like, oh, so you create systems for people. And I was like it kind of caught, like, I don't know why. I do know why, because we none of us can see our own stuff, right? But I was like caught in this moment, like, yeah, you're right. Like I'm a mathematician. I do systems, I do processes, I do frameworks, right? So all of this stuff all kind of goes together. And I was like, it just like it took me back. And that was like a super pivotal moment in my business journey. And I thought if I can help people with their systems and their frameworks and their programs and now their marketing, right? Like it's all the same thing. It's just in different contexts. And so I feel like right now everything is finally like coming together. And right, all of it comes together in this program for me. Uh, it's super heavy on the marketing side of things. It is takes all the stuff I did teaching and pulls it all in, and like that leadership thing, and getting people to do the things that you want it to do. And if you are wondering, right, if you can do this, you can. Right? All you need is this framework. All you need is a framework to make it happen. And so today we're going to talk about the framework around creating your offer. We're going to talk about your milestones, and we're going to talk about your objective. But just like in full transparency, you are going to get an invite to work with me further at the end. And like those of you who know me, right? Like I love the marketing, but I'm not into like the icky, slimy marketing, right? So if we get to the end of this and it has helped and you decide this program is a good fit for you right now, great. If you decide it's not, great. Like it's all good, right? But this is not a fluffy webinar where you're going to get some information and like no action. We're doing the thing, but it's just the beginning. So if you guys are okay with that, I want to move forward and keep going. But I just want you to have that heads up and sort of know where we're headed and all of that. Okay. But let's jump right in. Like I said a minute ago, even though this is just the beginning, I promise you that what you will learn today will increase conversions into your program, help your clients complete your program, and give your program structure that it needs, right, to increase accessibility and impact, right? The more accessible something is, the easier it is for people to consume it, right? And the more they get finished. There's a little caveat to that we'll talk about in just a minute, but right, that's the gist of it. That is what we're going to do today. So the very first thing, right, that we talked about wanting to do is creating your crystal clear objective. I say this is the number one mistake most coaches make when transitioning to a group program. And it's because they're really, really, really good one-on-one coaches, right? Like we don't have an agenda. There is no judgment. There's no, like, if you're a good one-on-one coach, like all those things, right, are not something that you are used to doing. But when you have a group of people going, there's a reason, right, that we put a math students in one classroom and English students in another. Because if we were trying to do those two things in the same classroom, it would be chaos, right? I mean, it's chaos enough as it is. We don't need to add the extra. So it's not necessary or advisable to include everything you know about whatever your topic is in one program, right? Like you don't have to get it all in. In fact, I'm going to jump down a couple slides because I want to talk about this right here. Because I'll go back to the other slides here in just a second, right? But we all struggle with this idea of not giving them everything we know, right? So Ford, they make way more than a Super Duty truck, right? Like they have cars, they have other trucks. This is an ad that I took a picture of. I was flipping through a magazine at my house. It's in the American Quarter Horse Journal. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this illustrates this perfectly. It says most trucks can tow a horse. A Super Duty can tow the whole barn. So two things are happening here, right? They're not talking about all of the things that they have to offer. They're not saying come see everything. And they're also talking to a very specific person who reads the American Quarter Horse Journal, right? So it's not like they don't want to sell cars to people in the middle of New York who maybe don't even need a car, or who, want a Prius, not a Prius because it's not a Ford, but you know what I mean, right? Like they want to sell cars still, but this particular ad goes to people who like horses, people who have a lot of horses and need a Super Duty truck. That's it, right? It's the one thing they're focused on. And the same thing happens, right, with your program. So when I say I want to focus, this program focuses a lot on the marketing side of things. Creating this crystal clear objective is as much about marketing as it is about what your program does. People want to know what they're going to get. They want to know what's in it for them, and a confused mind doesn't buy. So the more options you give them, right? They're like little kids. The more options you give them, the less they know kind of where they're going. So we want to create this very crystal clear objective as we go forward. And as we do this, right, we're going to talk about, how do we know if it's clear enough? And this is my, like, is there an it's done moment, right? So I'll talk about it in a second. So, and can it be stated in one sentence? Yep, ongoing clarification, absolutely. Okay, so can it be stated in one sentence? So here's two programs. This is by my client, Barb. These are both hers. But the difference in these two programs is that there is
Heather,
no
I
difference.
don't think we're
Go ahead.
seeing the
Oh,
two programs.
you're right. Oh, and you know what? There we go. Sorry. Looking at the wrong side. Thank you. Okay, so both of these programs are by my client Barb, and there's a difference in these two programs, but there's only difference is what she's stating she wants to do, right? So if you look at her website and on Soul Spot, it says your soul will be revived and rejuvenated, and you'll have happiness, joy, and victory. Which are, like, sounds fantastic, but I don't know what that means or how to get there, right? So working together, we created a program called the Victory Story Blueprint. It's the same process, right? She helps people through trauma get to the place where they can release that trauma and live joyful lives. And so we took the words she was already using, which was the victory, right? She said, have happiness, joy, and victory, and turned it into this. It's the same process, but they know when they're done, right? Because they've written their story on a piece of paper, right? So she's walked them through the same thing. They know when they're done. So when I say we're going to create a crystal clear objective, right? She can say one thing about this. What are we going to do in Victory Story Blueprint? We're going to write your story out, and we're going to write your victory story. So we know it's going to end right in this victory. But in order to do that, they need to look at the traumas that they're ignoring, big T, little t traumas that are affecting their life in the moment, and be able to move past it. So she can use the exact same process, right? They just know exactly what they're doing now. They have a goal in mind. They can check it off and say, yep, that's done. Great. Okay, so in your workbook, you have, this is like the first place we're gonna like stop and think for a minute, okay? So remember, your crystal clear objective is not about all of the things you can do and teach. It's about the one thing your clients want to do. It's about the one thing they want to do. So if you were creating a group coaching program, I think I'll stop sharing for just a second. Oh, I keep moving these. I'm trying to move them in two different places so I can see it, right? So it's about the thing your clients want to do. So let me stop sharing for just a second and see if, hello, anybody wants to share. If you were creating an objective for your group coaching program, what would it be? Oh, anyone? I'm good at waiting.
I'll go first.
Okay.
So one of my things I do coach in is I coach other photographers in running a profitable business. Right. So the main objective there would be how to be profitable in photography and the process that your business needs to go through in order to achieve that.
Okay. So are they done when their numbers turn black instead of red? Or are they done? When are they done?
So it's really, we start with what your numbers look like. It really comes down to the client experience around it, so that how you run your business equates to the quality of service based connects to the pricing.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So their done though is done when they have the client experience mapped out
Right.
and um and they've done it a few times, or like what's the, yeah,
Yeah,
like you
usually
can,
when it's all mapped out and then we run a few test runs and then they've done it a few times and we come back and we talk a couple of times for that. It's really, it does have a finite ending, right? It's not a constant coaching. There's an end of the process.
okay, yeah. And so right now that's one-on-one, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so if you were going to create that into a group program, you want to create it in such a way where they're sort of all on the same road. So I think like um having like the client experience mapped out and written out, like that's a great thing to say, okay, you've done that, now go implement it, right? Like that's a good stopping place there. Anybody else? Thank you, Jessica. I saw her this morning too. Speaking of seeing other people all day. Okay. Um, yep, we can keep going. I just want to make sure if anybody wants to talk through theirs, we can. Um, all right, I'm going to share. Oh, go ahead, Charlotte.
Yeah, this is a program that I've thought about setting up. It's based on my book, which is for second marriages. So
Okay.
I have it set up, a workbook already set up, and it's 12 chapters on different topics that can like are affected, but I'm not sure. Like I'm thinking second marriage roadmap or something. That's a PDF I have and that I did create,
Okay.
but I'm not sure exactly what the actual result is from that.
Right. So are there things, so I know that, like anything like that, right? It's a process. This goes the same way for like life coaches, health coaches, right? Like those things never end. We are never done, right? Being
Mhm.
healthier. We are never done working on our mindset. We're just never done with those things. So are there places in the middle? Because again, we're back to like, we don't have to teach everything we know about all the things, right? Is there a place in there that's like, when you've done this, you're in an infinitely better place than you were before you started the program?
Well, I wonder if it's too vague. Like I had a thought when you have hope, but that's pretty vague. So that's not really
Mm-hmm.
an action. That's sort of more, I'm not sure. I'll have to think about it.
What are the titles of your chapters?
Well, the first part is on healing, like accepting your story, understanding why
Okay.
it's difficult, why second marriages are hard, and then different healing things. And I don't do
Mm-hmm.
the healing myself, but I suggest resources and stuff. Like but it's sort of like how you go about that. And then it's gets into connecting as a couple, and then
Okay.
into the step family, and then reaching out for help. Those are kind of the main categories.
Okay. Yeah, and we can keep thinking about it. Um, do you know, are your clients, when they come to you, are they typically coming to you in crisis or just wanting to get ahead of it? Like, what is their,
I'm just starting, so it's been
okay.
mostly books. I'm just kind of starting on the coaching right now, so
Oh,
I'm not
good.
sure, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
Good. It'll all, just so you know, just so you're like right where you're supposed to be, but it will all start like as you move forward. People who know me, right? Action brings clarity. So as you begin to move forward, all of those things will become clear. Like you'll start seeing where it is that people come into your world and what they're doing. Um, my guess at the moment, right, is that they are maybe not in crisis, but they're struggling a little because people don't tend to reach out when they're not in a place of, when they're in a place of joy and bliss and happiness, right? Like, then they just go along because everything's good, right? So maybe we can think of something that is like, when you're going on, date nights every so often, and, I mean, like some very concrete things, like what does it look like when you're in a place that you're connecting with your spouse, right? Like that might be the place to go with that one.
Okay, thank you. I'll think about it
Yeah.
more.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Anybody else? Kathleen?
I just had a question.
Of course.
Do you think there's a best time frame to have a course, like a certain number of weeks or a certain number of times a month that you meet, that kind of thing?
I think it depends on what your objective is. So a lot of some things, but yes, it needs to be finite, right? Like it's not like go on forever kind of thing. And has an end goal. So it just depends on what that end goal is and really like what is realistic for making that happen. And it could be like intense, right, up to that point, but it still has to be like realistic. Right. So usually 2 months, 3 months, right in there is a good range, where you can, and we'll talk in this next little section about keeping people, it's actually a good transition into it, keeping people engaged and moving forward and finishing the steps that they need to finish, because that's really the crucial part, more so than how long it is overall, right? If 2 weeks later they're not engaging any longer, it's not going to matter because they're never going to get to that end point. So whether it's 2 months, 3 months, or 6 months, or a year, right? Keeping them engaged in the process is the only thing that's going to keep them moving forward. So let's go ahead and do that. And I don't know if I can change my, let's do this. I think that will keep my notifications from showing up for you all. Okay, so that's right. So defining your celebration milestones is going to be the thing that keeps them moving forward in your program. Okay, so once you have your objective, then knowing the phases, right? 2 or 3 big steps along the way, if it's a couple months long. The key here is that those things help them feel empowered and know that they can do it, right? It's giving them little shots of, I don't know if adrenaline's the right word, momentum is a better word. Little shots of momentum to keep going, because you're creating these points of celebration where, and they're not, right? They're not frivolous. They're not superficial. They're real. Like these things have to happen in order to move on. And so they're confidence boosters. They get the wins. And they're not superficial, like they're needed in order to make progress. So goals versus milestones, right? Goals can be smaller, more specific tasks, right? Like they can happen on the daily, or they can happen like in homework weekly. Milestones are part of the bigger picture. It's best to think of them as phases, right? Like, so what are the phases? And sometimes, Shirley, I was thinking of yours, like if we go into what those milestones look like, that might help clear up what the end objective looks like as well, right? Like if we can think of what are the milestones they hit as they move through the process. So they're not tasks, right? Like goals, tasks, brainstorm all the deliverables for my program, which we're going to do a little bit later here. And then, right, but they're like this end piece of it that you do. So put them, once you have them all done and you're ready to make your offer, you know that because you have an offer ready to go. It gives them skin in the game. So this is like the place where I think it's like counterintuitive for most people, because we think, and I know I've heard it, like, make it easy to complete, right? Remove all the obstacles for your clients. I promise you, if you do that, they won't finish. They just won't. Like, they have to have the skin in the game, right? Um, in fact, a completion rate for free digital courses, like the on demand, is 5 to 8%. 5 to 8%. And so, in something like a group coaching program, you don't want that to be the case. Now, there are times where that's okay, right? Like, you could put out a program of 12 modules, and maybe they only need modules 7, 9, and 12, right? And then it's okay if they don't complete the whole thing, because they're getting what they need out of it. But in a case like this, where it's group coaching, right, where your entire group is headed in the same direction, right? They're gaining momentum from the community, right? We want our completion rates to be more like 85, 80%. It's never going to be 100. So don't feel bad if that's not the case. It's just not. And it creates deadlines for people, right? You have a whole group moving in the same direction. You're creating deadlines. It's kind of weird to say, but it creates a little bit of peer pressure, right? Like, Jessica's finishing, I need to hurry up. It allows them to be seen, because you've got these celebration points where they're like, yay, I finished, right? And they're natural incentive spots to, I know Diane and I have talked about this quite often, right? Like, to give people bonuses when they complete something, when they complete one of these phases, when they complete the milestone. What's going to make the next phase easy for them? What's going to make it faster? What's going to make it easier? What do they need to keep moving forward? So I know it sounds funny to, like, put hurdles or blocks or boulders in their way as things they need to complete. I'm telling, well, I think, let me see if that's it, is the next slide. Right, if my students never had a quiz or a test or a final exam, they would never, ever, ever complete anything. Right? So this meme, like, always cracks me up. Like, hey, can I make up my missing assignments? Right, then the day after, like, what can I do to fix my grade? It's human nature. It isn't like something's wrong with us. It's not, right? Like, we always want to help each other, right? Not do this, but it's human nature to do it. And our lives are busy. And so if we haven't done the things back here, right, where we're creating deadlines, creating natural incentive places, then they will never ever get there, because even when you create them, they're going to do it the 2 days before. It's just how it is, right? So milestones are a clear motivational technique for your clients. We don't want to overuse them or underuse them, right? Like, if you make them 6 weeks apart, they're not getting there for the same reason, right? But we won't want them daily either. Like, they need to be good chunks, 2 to 3 weeks apart from each other, where it motivates people to finish what they are working on. Yep. So that is another really good stopping place here for a second. I'm going to stop sharing again and see if, like, you can work either way, right? Like, you can come up with your objective and then create your milestones going towards it, or you create your milestones and sort of figure out where that ends. And sometimes what happens as you're creating your program, have you guys ever done this, right? Like your program just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and gets more added to it and more, and pretty soon, right, it's like super overwhelming, has so much stuff nobody's ever going to look at it all, right? And we think, oh, we're back to the first thing, right? Like, they need it all. Well, if we can create the milestones, sometimes we go, you know what, that third one right there, that's a good stopping place. Even though there's all this stuff after it, it doesn't all have to go in this one program. Yes, milestones help us know where to share. Yeah, them to earn things. Competition is a great motivator, Jessica, for a lot of people. Some people shy away from it, and you just have to know like who those are and what they're doing. And but yes, competition is always good. So it's always like, yay, Jessica was the first one to turn like turn that in, and then Jessica's motivated to be first again, and somebody else is motivated to beat Jessica. Uh, okay. Anybody want to like? Do you have any ideas for like your objective and your milestones in the middle? I'm going to show you mine here in a little bit, but I will share. I'll quit spinning this pen.
I'll go. I'm just still, this is a whole new thing that has come up, and I'm building, I want to build a group, like a coaching group.
Okay.
And so, and I think about the milestones, I like this idea of 2 to 3 weeks apart. It's not a week apart and it's not a month apart. It's sort of like you've got that like tension of there's due dates. So I think for me, it's almost like sending them first to just observations, like of what our project will be like. Go observe what are the activities, what are the behaviors, what's happening around here, what's the language we speak, and then they come back and they have to like make a report. So that would be, so like it's kind of 2-part. First observation, second part, write a report, and teach them how to, so it's almost like, it's like anthropology. Like now you have to go like dig into this. How many times were these words said? How many times do we use this? Where are the blocks? Where are the barriers? In a company. So so that would be an interesting. So I wrote that down as, first an observation activity. Second is a report out. Third is assessment of the observations, and looking at the data that you gathered, and then creating. So I think I think that would be really interesting, because you could do a 90-day program, for me, I could do a 90-day thing and have these about 3 weeks apart, 2 to 3 weeks apart. That would give a lot of good exploration and activity, so they don't just kind of go, what's the big word right now? Languishing, right? So they're like, people are languishing. It's like, yeah, if I hear that word again, but it's really what happens. They just kind of like go off, and so it keeps the tension there, like in school. Right. So,
yeah. And you brought up something, I don't even know if you realized it, but you were talking, right, in phases. So there's like this observation phase that happens. And then there's like a testing phase, right, that happens. And then probably an implementation kind of phase that happens.
Reporting, analyzing. Yeah. And that's just the first part of like, that's like sort of month, so I just have to figure out how you do this. I don't want to tell someone it's 6 months, but it really is 6 months. But what can we do in 90 days,
Right. Yeah. Nope, that's a good point. Anybody else? Yeah, and if you can think of it in phases, right, it's super, super helpful. So, all right, Diane.
I can share a little bit about what I'm doing.
I'd love to.
I've got one of my coaching groups. I'm giving them a blog. Like they have a monthly challenge, but then there's like an overarching other challenge. So like this month, I'm challenging them all to do 4 blogs as like that's a milestone challenge within this month. But bigger than that, and I was just looking at it, like they have milestone Voxer hours. So if some of them have just earned these, if they planned or hosted an event, virtual or live, they earn a Voxer hour. If they've created or launched a program or a course, they can, so there's different ways all the way along that they can earn things, but I'm also kind of adding this new twist to, next, so blog this month, next month, it's going to be about videos or Facebook Lives or something, just to basically get them to do the darn thing that they're, they say they think the thing they need to do anyway, right?
Right. Yep, for sure. Yeah, no, and that's good. Like it chunks it in, right, monthly, just like and it's either done or not done, right? Like you either did 4 blog posts or you did not do 4 blog posts. You either did the videos or you didn't do the video. Like there's no ambiguity. It's not subjective. You either did the thing or you didn't do the thing, right? Oh, Shelby said she had to run. She might have said that a while ago. Oh, there she is. She's still here. Bye, Shelby. It will be recorded if you guys miss a piece of it. No problem. Okay. Does anybody want help, like kind of figuring out where their milestones are? Hi, Heather. I'm glad you could join us. Okay. All right. I will make sure, because now, right, if you, and again, like it might not all happen where it's done today for you, but it definitely will give you some things to think about. But if you have an objective, right, and you have those touch points or hurdles that have to happen in the middle, and you're going to celebrate with them super big, right, when they happen, when they get over that hurdle. I have heard, just so you guys know, like we all kind of veer away from things that felt school related, but I've heard so many people say, like once they introduced quizzes, like content quizzes, and like people started finishing their programs, right? Because it was like this validation. So that's part of those celebration milestones as well. It's like this validation that yes, I've got it. Yes, I'm doing the right thing. And like, yep, it's, it's sort of checked off and we can move forward from there. So when we're talking about designing your offer, right, we're then talking about, we have the objective, we have the milestones. Now we're thinking of like the features and the things that go in your offer, and designing the way that we're going to talk about right here does 2 things. It helps with both the marketing and it helps your learners in your program learn. Okay. People learn in a variety of ways. And so really what this all boils down to is offering your content in as big a variety of ways as possible. Not only then, like, right, does your offer become juicy because it's got some meat to it, right? It's not just coaching calls and a community, which are huge and like the foundation but it also has things like PDFs and swipe files and templates and tools and activities, right? And so when I think about this, I think about the way people learn, like the way. And so if we think about the way people learn, it will impact both the deliverability of your program and the marketability, right? So it's like this cool 2 birds with 1 stone thing. Our offer gets to become super juicy and people get to learn in the way they learn best. Not that, so we're like kind of clear and transparent here. I know that there's like learning styles are not absolute, right? There's people learn in all kinds of different ways. But what I do know is that the more variety you can offer in ways to do things, the more people learn. I think I have her on here. Let me just double check real quick. Yeah, she's next. So we'll just go to it. Right. This was one of my high school groups. We did this volunteer thing. This is them then. But the girl right in the center right there, Like she struggled with math. I changed that to Chloe. That should say Chloe. Because I was thinking of this other kid in middle school, but then I was like, no, I want to go to her, so I'll change that. That should say Chloe. She struggled all like she just struggled with it, right? Until I gave them a project that they were able to do however they wanted. She ended up creating me a PowerPoint video with music, with like a scrolling Star Wars theme, with all of the calculations like scrolling past on the screen. And she like calculated the math of it had something to do with the Death Star. like I just needed to tap into her Star Wars thing that she had going on. And then she did all this crazy stuff with it, right? That I could never get her to do anything before. So if we can tap into the way that people learn, right? And that's so let me back up just a second, right? I'm not saying that you need to create all of your content in all 8 of these different ways, right? Like that's insane. But if you can create, especially like the main 3, right? Like video, audio, and transcripts of each thing, of all of your core content, your people will be far more likely to consume it in the way that suits them. Beyond that, everything else makes it more fun, right? If you can introduce some activities, it's more fun. If you can introduce, especially some kinesthetic ways to do things. I forgot I was going to start this that way today, but I forgot to do it. But anyway, then it can become more fun. So offering material in a variety of ways makes your program easier to sell, more fun to participate in, and easier to comprehend. So it does all of those. Like it helps, again, like I said, marketability and deliverability. So you have a spot in your workbook that gives you, there's a checklist there, and I have it here, but there's a checklist there, and it's broken up into the ways people learn. So if you want to look at your content or your milestones and think of all the different ways you could deliver some of those things. So there's a checklist there, it gives you some ideas. But let's just take a few minutes of writing time and just brainstorm everything you can think of, right? Like I said, with core content, video, audio, transcripts. But beyond that, right? Like all of the things that you could do. And we can brainstorm with you. You can write. Do this however you guys like. Okay, does anybody want help brainstorming some of their stuff? we could go all the way to any of the 3 points, right? Like, so really we have all these like levels happening, right? We have like the overarching objective, the milestones, and then the way you deliver them sort of is coming in, filtering underneath. Um,
I don't have a like a, I don't know, when I read your list on page 10, I just thought of like partnering, you know, like pair and share we do as a teacher. I'm a teacher too.
Yep.
And then I thought I'm creating a course that's productivity, but it also, you know, focuses on resistance and also focuses on, you know, the creative aspects and stuff. And I thought it'd be neat. I'm in a challenge right now with Tracy Warren and Uncoached, and like people just started becoming prayer partners with each other, like in the group. And I thought I need to like set that up, like planning partners, and then like resistance partners, like share, you two share, you know, what is it, you know, practice the, you know, breaking through resistance to whatever you're trying to do, or mindset change or whatever. And so I thought I'd like to incorporate partners in each milestone grouping, you know, because we're going to do, you know, different sections. So I got that from your list. I'm like, oh, that would be really good to add to my course.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, anytime you can add in like partners, or I mean, you know, but like we called them jigsaw, right? Like teaching, which was, you know, if you're, depending on what it's for, like write this piece and then have 3 different people look at it to help clarify it. Or Lou, is she still here? Did she go? I think she went. But with her thing, like just so you guys know, Lou does culture assessments, and when she's talking about group coaching, she's talking about, I think, for the corporate world, for people who do corporate culture as well. She used to do culture for TGI Fridays, and so when she's talking about that, right, like that research phase in teams like that, it's like you go out, have your team research each a different aspect and bring that back together. That's that jigsaw like thing. It hits that social and this partnering thing that happens all together. I used to know a kid who, this is when my kids were really little, right? Like he could not stand still and say the ABCs. Like he just couldn't do it preschool age. He had to spin in a circle, right? And if he could just spin in a circle, he could make it happen. The other day, I was memorizing my script for the video you guys saw come in here, right? And I'm like pacing in my dining room because I couldn't stand still and just read and memorize the script. I needed to pace and say it out loud in my head to do it. So like some of those things, like we forget as we become adults that movement, and then it comes out in our hands. Like when we're talking, like, so it comes out in our hands. Yes. So kinesthetic, like it's the one that people always forget. And I meant to start today with like a kinesthetic icebreaker where you like throw a pretend ball, like an imaginary ball to each other. And for that reason, right? Like it makes it more fun when you start your things like that. And I think I just forgot. But if you have all the pieces though, there's like a lot more to this, obviously, right? Especially the marketing side of it. Like there's so much to it has to do with sales, you know, sales copy and all of the things. But if you have these 3 pieces, like is anybody else, is that helpful for you guys for all of this? Yes, maybe.
I just like the milestones and incentives. I think that's really important to keep people engaged. When you made the comment about, you know, only 5 to 8% of people get done. I mean, how many of us have courses or programs that we've spent money on sitting in our files somewhere because there just was nothing to to move us along. I think that's critical.
Yeah. Yeah. And I know that sometimes people like veer away from group programs because they're concerned about the energy of the group, right? Like you have that one person who possibly like derails everything. And I just want to, like, that is 100% reliant upon the person facilitating the group. It just is. And so if you're in a program, it's just that that person who's leading needs some skills for how to um, nicely, diplomatically, and sometimes like draw the line in the sand. Because all three of those things sometimes have to happen, and it's okay. Um, but yeah, so the leader is 100% responsible for the group. So like I said, there is a lot more to this. Are you guys okay if I talk about like what comes next? Are you good? And if you, so I have created a program. It's called, I'm going to pull it up here. Let me go back to present mode. It is called Irresistible Groups. You can see that, right? Big on the screen. And I need to see where I'm at here. And it has a few different things. So I have the exact same thing, right, that we just talked about. So my crystal clear objective for Irresistible Groups is that you will launch a group coaching program in 8 weeks, right? Like you either have done it or you haven't. And then the celebration milestones, you've created your USP. So USP is unique selling proposition. In case you don't know, it's the thing that makes you different from everybody else that's doing your thing, right? Because if you're doing something that nobody else is doing, chances are there's not a market for it, right? So the fact that other people are doing it is a good thing, but you need to have a way that you're different. And yes, that is in part because you're you, right? But what is it about you and the way you do it that makes you different from everybody else that's doing it? Because just telling prospective clients like the other one's not led by me, like they don't care, right? They want to know what's in it for them. Your visibility plan is complete, right? You've created your sales page, the ever dreaded sales page. And then finally, right, like the last thing, you've launched. So obviously these aren't the only 4 things that have to happen, right? In fact, I have it as there's 3 pieces that go into launching. It is creating, I'm gonna back off on that for just a second because I have it on the slide here pretty soon. But so in Irresistible Groups, you will launch a group coaching program that will draw people in and get them huge results, right? Like that's the whole point. And if you have these milestones and they know they're making progress towards what you want them to make progress for, they will finish and they will get the result, right? My intention for every single person who enters Irresistible Groups is to launch, like, right? Like that's the point. You'll market your program in a way that feels congruent with who you are. In fact, as I was putting together this slide deck, there were slides, I'm like, oh, like I just can't use that one because I don't like the normal, right, like way that people market in certain things. Like I want things to feel congruent with who I am. And I don't ever want to do like a bait, you know, like my cousin was asking me, do you want to put out there that there's going to be an offer at the end? I'm like, yeah, that's why I'm saying it at the beginning. Like there's an offer at the end, people, and it's okay because if it's right for you, great. If it's not, it's okay. Like I'm good with it, right? And that feels congruent with me. And none of these like icky sales tactics feel congruent with me. So we all know when we see it, we don't want to. We don't want to be that person either. But you'll deliver your program also in such a way that your learners will become fans for life, right? So here I'm talking about the three things. We're creating an offer, we're marketing an offer, and we're delivering an offer, right? All three of those things work together. And it is not linear. Like, I know it would be super nice if I could say, you created your offer and that was the first milestone. And then you marketed it and that was the second. Like, it just doesn't work that way, right? Because that process is not linear. You have to begin with creating, very quickly jump into marketing, and those two things are happening at the same time, right? And then when you add delivering in, you're still creating because you don't want to create it all before you ever sell any of it, right? You don't want to put all that work in until you've got some people there ready to consume it. And then you're also still marketing it, right? Because you're still talking about it. You want your people to be talking about it. So in the creation formula, you'll have a deeper understanding of everything we did today. Like, right, this isn't the time to leave the objective and the milestones and the pieces, right, that make your offer super juicy and super consumable and help people learn. You'll know how to scaffold your material to make it accessible to everyone. You'll create examples, right? I don't know, have any of you ever taken a online course where there's like no examples of anything? And I know I kind of did it today, like, but I did it on purpose, right? Like, I was sort of leaving my example to the end because all of these things that we did, like, that's what I'm doing. Guess what? There might be some surprise bonuses after each milestone. Right? Like I just said. You'll know the difference between core content and individualized instruction, right? Like, other than getting people to move through, there are some things that people need help with that isn't necessarily only applicable to them, but it can be asked in such a way that it's applicable to everybody, but it's individualized as well, right? And know how to create a program that helps people take action. This one, yes, I know. I see that value down there. And I know you guys think I'm crazy, but I'm going to explain it here in just a second. You'll learn how to create your own uniqueness in the market. That's what we were talking about. Create visibility, create traffic to your offer. If there's nobody there, it's like you can talk to nobody. You'll validate your offer in the marketplace before you build it, right? That's what I was just saying a minute ago, and create the sales funnel. And so the reason that everything we're going to do in this program, sales funnel wise and copy wise, I have and do charge my clients $7,500 to do for them. And so that's why that's, oh, I left that on the top up there too. You're going to find the best way to onboard your clients. We're going to talk about SOPs. You're going to learn the ins and outs of community management. So how to deal with, and just so you all know, like, where this comes from, I had multiple classes of 44 kids in them each. So, right. So, like, managing the masses is a skill that I had to have. You'll learn to create excitement and surprise within your program and how to create momentum and engagement. And I hate those slides, so I'm going to go past it. So, what is it worth? So this is where I was when I was trying to figure out where to go with this program. Everything that I'm working on right now, right, I'm piecing out to making it create $100,000 a year. Why? Because that's the number that after taxes, after hiring people to do things, right? That's the number that creates a nurse's salary. Just maybe barely over a teacher's salary, right? Not much over, right? So that's the number that I want to work on within this program, because I think it's the minimally viable number for your business to not feel like a chore, right? For it to feel like you're getting out of it what you need. I have to see where I'm at. So I'm just gonna put this out there. Obviously it's not $16,000, so we're not gonna breathe yet, right? But like I said, the marketing thing, right? Like I always struggle with these values, but it was one that I was like, I do charge that for my clients to do what I want to walk people through doing. And the copy swipe files and the template packages and all my SOPs, which in case you don't know are standard operating procedures, right? For dealing with your community and onboarding people and, right? Like just what is your response when things come up? Because they're gonna come up, period. So I don't know where my other one went. Okay, I gotta look where I'm going here. So again, I don't want people, this isn't like a program to enroll in off of a sales page, right? It's a group. I want to make sure people are ready for it if they want to do it. So I want to talk to everybody who wants to come in. The doors are not technically opening until tomorrow. So if anybody wants to chat about it today or tomorrow, I can do that, because once I open the doors tomorrow, the first chance they're going to get to talk to me about it's the next day, because my scheduler doesn't let you schedule less than 24 hours, but I'll hang out and chat with anybody who wants to. It is, let me stop sharing here for a second, because I don't know where my thing went. Okay, so we're going to do all three of those things, right? Creation, deliverability, and marketing, with the biggest chunk being in marketing. Okay. You guys, like I said in that video, anybody who's a coach is already really, really good at what they do. like you're really good at coaching your thing. That's not my thing, but I can help you organize it, structure it, create frameworks around it, right? And create something that people have fun in, therefore they finish, and therefore you create the impact you want to create. So we're going to use all the swipe files, all of the templates, all the tools, and it is a $1,600 program. That's what I have decided that I needed to do. Like, it was either like make it cheaper and put less of me in it, or put all of me in it and put it right there. And so that's where I wanted it. I can do some payment plans. The first 5 people who chat with me and want to sign up, they're going to get like a 30-minute, what did I call it? Like breakthrough boost call, right? Because there's going to be a moment in this process where you're like, I don't know what to do with this. It's like the oh crap call, right? Like, Heather, help me. And we'll go from there. Now there are 2 bigger bonuses. Like I said, there will probably be surprise bonuses at the milestones. I do know the last one's going to be like a t-shirt that says, what did I come up with? It was like, I'm irresistible, because it's irresistible groups. Like, I'm irresistible. Just check out my group. Yeah. So it was kind of fun and in like little cheek. And the two most powerful words in the English language, I read this the other day, is I am, right? So when people complete this, I want them to be able to say, I am irresistible. I have irresistible marketing. I have an irresistible program, right? People are drawn because I am serving them, right? And that's really where the irresistibility comes from. It's because you come from this place of service, right? Where are my other things went? Anyway, and I know that, you know, some people have been spinning around trying to create a group program for a really long time, right? And I don't know if it's like kind of scary or, and it can be, but what's going to happen with this one is it's 8 weeks, right? At the end of 8 weeks, my plan is for everybody to be launching. I know life happens. So it's 12 weeks in the community, right? But at the end of 8, you'll have everything that you need. At the end of 12 weeks, right? I went back and forth on this because, again, if I create that deadline, right, you do it, but it's like a deadline with grace, right? So it's an 8-week deadline with 4 weeks of grace period so that you can get it done and out the door, because I do know life happens, and that's really where it's where I'm comfortable, right? Like in a way of like, yes, I want you guys to finish it and I want you to launch. But I also know like we're humans, right? And we have to stay in that realm. So let me see if there's anything else that I wanted to say about it. So yeah, when I looked at this, so just so you guys know too, with your own group coaching programs, I need to enroll 5 people a month to hit that goal, which is not that big of a deal, right? And so same thing goes for you. Bye, Diane. Same thing goes for you. If you create your program and you know how many people you need to enroll, like those numbers become obvious. It's like, oh, that's not that big a deal. Like $100,000 a year sounds like a lot, right? And I just explained why I think it's like the minimally viable place that your business needs to be, because you have to pay taxes in that. You have to pay people. You have to pay people to help you. You can't do it all, right? And so if you can break down those numbers for how many you need to do to make that happen, then all of a sudden it feels doable, right? It's kind of like those milestones, right? Like if I have to sell 52 a year, right, that feels like a lot. But if I have to sell 5 a month, it's not as daunting. Like I can do that, and so can you. Like that's the point, right? So can you. Does anybody have any questions you want me to answer? You can tell I don't like that. I don't like the selling part, but it is what it is. And again, like if it's for you, it's for you. If it's not, it's okay.
So will the content only be accessible inside the group that we're all doing this in, or will there be access beyond that 12 weeks if we ever need to
Yeah, the
follow up with
content
anything?
stays accessible forever in the course area, right? The community is where the Q&A happens. Everybody who else is knowing, like we've done some co-working days, those will continue to happen. Like those will happen within the group. But the main core content will remain in the member, and you'll have live, as long as it's around, you'll have access to that. And there will be, at the end of, just so you know, at the end of 12 weeks, there will be an option to continue on or go up from there. Like if you've launched, did you need to do the next thing? I'm going to create the next thing. Right. And so it's never going to leave you like high and dry, and it'll always be there. But the community, right, ends at 12 weeks so that you finish it. So that you finish it. Any other questions? Come back in 15 minutes. I told Diane, I'm like, I don't know. Like the teaching part I like. It's the last part I don't really like, but it's okay. And it is okay, because I do truly, like, if it's for you, great. And if you want to go along on the journey, fantastic. And if you don't, that's okay too. It's not going anywhere. I know that's how we're really not supposed to sell things that way, but it's the way that I cannot feel like being bleh. Any other? Anybody know what you want to create a group coaching program around? Yeah.
The reason I asked my question is because I've got two in mind, obviously, but I would like to not try to juggle both because I want to be able to be in one minded
Oh,
focus.
right.
But then at some point,
Yeah.
I might want to go back through for the second one, right? So, and
Yeah,
one
for
would, of
sure.
course, is the photography one, but that might be the second one. And then the first one would be that visibility
Oh,
area
cool.
that I've been working at.
Yeah. No, yeah, absolutely. And that content will stay, it's your content. It's not disappearing. The community is the piece that kind of goes with it. And like I said, it's because I want people to finish it. I want you to launch, right?
I think it's great that your launch time is like 8 weeks because that sounds doable. But if it's like, oh, it's all year, it's like, let's get going, focus,
Yeah.
implement.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, and it's a pretty intense 8 weeks, just so like we're pretty clear, right? Like if you're gonna put everything together and launch it in 8 weeks, you don't have to build it all. We know that, right? Like beyond that 8 weeks, you're still gonna be building. Um, but and just the other piece that I think you guys should probably know is it starts June 1st, right? And so this first week will be getting people into the group and getting people into the back end area and really tightening up and working on this first part, right? The objective, the milestones, and mostly those two, right? Like the other piece is probably going to change um, as people work through it, right? Like how they deliver things is going to change the more clarity they get. I guess that's what I'm saying. Thank you. I'm glad you guys were here. How are you, Karen? I'm going to stop recording and then we can.